Hey guys, welcome to the analysis for today, September 24th. Of course, today is a Monday, and the markets were relatively slow, but still some nice setups, some continuation stuff going on that I want to show you. Before we get into that, let's look at what's on the news calendar for tomorrow. So some interesting news going on tomorrow. A few different things. First of all, Chairman Jordan speaks, and then later on, President Draghi speaks. So not your typical red-tagged events, but oftentimes they can have just as much or more impact on the market than a typical, interest rate statement or something else. So we definitely want to keep our eye on the market around 9 o'clock a.m. That's Eastern Standard Time for when Draghi speaks, because really, depending on what he says, the market could do some interesting things. So we'll certainly keep an eye out for that. Obviously, if Draghi has very positive things to say about the euro, we will look for a euro dollar, euro pound, euro odd, euro yen, basically everything euro to reverse and kind of head up, whereas lately it's been dropping down a little bit. And then, of course, if Draghi doesn't show much faith in the euro, then we could see some very steep, hard continuation to the downside with some of these euro pairs. Okay, so certainly want to keep an eye around 9 a.m. for what's going on in these euro crosses. And depending on what Draghi says, there could be some short-term effects, but also some long-term effects. Remember that the last time that the euro really started picking up pace and continuing for quite some time was kind of built on what Draghi said. So definitely could have some long-term effects in the market, and we'll want to keep an eye on that. And then, of course, later on at 10 a.m. we have consumer confidence for the U.S. dollar, which again is a red-tagged event, so definitely can move the market. Alright, that's the news. Now let's check our terms real quick. So these are our terms. Basically, they're in place for legal purposes because the government does not want us, acting as if we're qualified or licensed in the financial, department and giving you investment advice. This is just, us giving our personal views on the market for educational purposes, and that's what the terms basically say. If you need to pause the video to read those, please feel free to do that. I'm going to jump into the analysis at this time. And as I said, there's some interesting things, though the market's been relatively slow, some interesting things that are developing. Number one is that this euro dollar is looking to continue to the downside today. You can see that we've made up some bearish movement, getting priced down to 129.27 area currently. So definitely pushing down to the bearish side. Now, one thing to note is that this is not a really strong bar. We've actually had about half the bar retrace since the low of the day. So not extremely authoritative in the move to the downside, but still heading consistently down, looking toward this 126.50 area, which is a pretty major area. So I'm not saying that the euro is not going to pull back and even test this line or break this level again, but it does look like price is starting to move back and continue this reversing motion down toward that 126.50 area, and that's something that I'm thinking is a potential target for all the euro short entries that you may take. Now, of course, Draghi speaking tomorrow, like I said, could have a pretty big impact on the market and especially the euro. So if Draghi comes out and says very positive things about the euro and talks a lot about his faith in the euro, then we could definitely see the actual opposite of this reversal and the continuation to the upside, breaking the 132 area and heading higher. So that's a potential target as well, depending on how price action moves. But at this time, it looks like price is consistently heading downward for the moment. Now, one thing that you could perhaps argue is, let me pull this back a little bit, is that we're actually in just kind of a bear flag motion right here. This is kind of just our flag, and it's actually setting up for continuation. And I might buy into that because it's not often that you have all this momentum and the first time that it pulls back is actually a total reversal. Normally when you have all that kind of momentum build, you have a few times where it's trying to pull back and then maybe eventually it'll get a reversal. But it's not likely that the first topping action you get is a total reversal typically. So I could buy into this idea that maybe this is just a flag and we're actually looking toward higher prices very soon. and that's something I think is very possible. However, until I actually see evidence of that via some price action, I'm thinking continuation is what it's looking like now, and we could see a drop all the way down to the 2650 zone down here. So that's my view. It does help that we got a strong tail pushing off the 1-3 area. We'll see how this bar closes. We're about 2 hours or an hour and a half till the close of this bar. So depending on how that closes, that might tell us a little more on the story as well. All right, along with euro dollar, let's go ahead and check the pound dollar. Now we can see that the pound dollar also had some very strong topping action up in this area and pushed down quite a bit. However, it didn't make very much bearish, direction after that. You can see that whereas the euro dollar kind of came up and then pulled down relatively steeply, the pound dollar is still somewhat choppy up here around 162, a little higher than 162. So what I'm looking at right now is just a little bit of consolidation here in this area and expecting a breakout to one side or the other. As far as pound dollar is concerned, though, I do think there's some good reversal potential in that, especially because it's off previous resistance. I'd still like to see a break of this level around 61.80 before I'm jumping into a short entry on that pair. We also have some consolidation on the pound odd, which is a pair that I was looking forward to taking a short on. I thought that the pound obviously has been pretty strong, and the odd pretty weak, so a really good opportunity for a reversal and a real momentum change in there. But right now it's still kind of consolidating. You can see that today's overall movement was slightly bearish, not very extreme. But still, it hasn't moved up past 155.60 or below 155.40, so it's kind of in this little range, and I'm looking for a breakout to one side or the other for the pound odd. So we'll see what happens here. Another pair to keep an eye on is the pound yen. This is of course the daily chart, and we talked about this bar several days ago, if you remember, and just said that I was thinking that price might very well be moving up, if this is rounding and making a lot of momentum. But once I saw this bar, kind of all bets are off for the long direction, because that's a serious reversal bar with a lot of momentum behind it, and definitely pushing price back down. Now price is back down, and it's kind of at a decent level here where there's a potential for it to bounce. So that's something I'll be looking at with pound yen to see if it does make a bounce off this level or if it crashes right through this level. And of course that'll kind of tell me a little more about the momentum behind pound yen. And depending on what it does there, a bounce off this level to the upside would make me think higher highs, and perhaps even a test of our longer term time frame trend line here. So some potential there for a long if we do see some continuation, but of course there's nothing you can do there except for just wait to see if that is what occurs, and we won't know until it does. So that's the pound yen. I think there's some good potential there in both directions. Pound yen again not really moving like it used to, but oftentimes the market goes in cycles, and you just got to wait for it to pick up and change the cycle and begin moving like it used to, or changing how it typically acts, because there can be 10-year market cycles where a certain pair moves a certain way for 10 years and then stops doing so for 10 years, and then it's 10 years more until it goes again. And so that's kind of just how the markets work with cycling and things like that. And with pound yen, we might be in just a slower cycle and waiting for it to kind of rev up and give us more trendy moves and longer moves than it has recently. Of course, another pair that we have in some indecision right now is the odd dollar. This is the odd dollar daily chart, and we're right around the 1042 area. And odd is just not looking like it's making a lot of progress right now. You can see that almost every bar is a tail kind of pushing in the opposite direction, kind of some knife fight action here. It's just kind of pushing up and then pushing down, and it's not really making any ground. So it's another pair where you got to wait for a break. There's really nothing else you can do. I mean, if you're trading smaller time frames, then sure, you still have lots of great signals within that movement there. But as a longer time frame trader, looking for larger targets and better potential than a few pips here and a few pips there, there's nothing you can do on these pairs that are just struggling than to wait, because you want to get a quality signal. and quality signals don't come in the middle of those choppy markets. Another pair we have here is the euro pound, and this is one we talked about because for the first time in a while the euro is actually starting to make some higher highs against the pound. And so right now we're kind of in a position to see if this is legitimate and if this euro is actually going to continue off the base that it's built now and make another higher high to continue this uptrend, or if this move here was just kind of faking out to the upside and it's actually going to break lower and make some lower lows. So that's totally being challenged right now by this level, which is like it's like the 79.50 area. And so you can see that today's bar is kind of bouncing off that. It's not a monster bounce, obviously, but tomorrow we could definitely see some potential continuation to the upside off this level, or a break to the downside, and that will tell us, in my opinion, a lot about what's going on with the euro pound right now, because a break of that area you would think would lead us to target the bottom of the level here, and then of course a continuation would mean a higher high, maybe even near 82. So some high probability potential depending on what this does for the euro pound, and that's one I'll definitely be paying attention to and keeping you in tune with as well. So keep an eye on that. That 79.50 level should be an interesting one. Okay, the last pair I want to cover today is the euro yen, and the euro yen, we can see some reversal signs as well, along with a lot of the other pairs. However, yen is actually a little stronger than the other pairs right now, kind of accelerating this downward pressure more than some of the other pairs. So it's looking like it's targeting a lot lower lows. One possible is all the way down at 92.50, which is a pretty pretty big target. So euro yen is definitely one that you want to keep an eye on. It is at a kind of a little level here on the, that's a very bad line, but it's kind of at a level on the daily chart right now, but it's not a major level. So if we see some continuation with euro yen, it might be realistic to to target some pretty low lows with euro yen, especially because as you look back in the history of euro yen, you can see that the overwhelming downtrend that has developed over the past several years is really pushing this down. So if you can catch some of that momentum, that's worth it on a pair that you can get a really good risk-reward ratio on, like euro yen. So right now it's right around 100, but looks to be breaking down and heading towards some lower lows. So keep an eye on the euro yen as well. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to tweet and share and everything if you don't mind, and leave a comment with any questions or thoughts, and I appreciate that very much. I will see you guys tomorrow, and again, keep an eye out for President Draghi as he speaks. Make sure you're aware of that, and good luck in your trading.